loves, your happy-go-lucky Texas-based anglophile here with another episode of Americans Who Love Britain. Another installment in our food category. Today we're going to be making Irish brown soda bread. And it's a tradition that cropped up back in the 1860s when baking soda came onto the scene. They started using baking soda instead of yeast as a leavening agent, and this bread became very popular. It started in the UK and in Ireland and then spread to Europe. We're going to make the Irish brown soda bread version today with a little bit of a twist. It's a real easy recipe, and if you enjoy home-baked breads, you can throw this together, throw it in the oven. You don't have to be a professional cook, and I tell you, the people that eat it are going to love it. So let's get right to it. By the way, I'm going to put the ingredients and measurements on the screen, but I've got a link in the description below with a printable version of this recipe, so you don't have to try to write everything down, but I wanted to walk you through it. What we start with here is 1 3/4 cups each of white flour and then a very fine wheat flour. And what we're going to do is we're going to add all of our dry ingredients and kind of whisk them together. Again, white and wheat flour. I've got a 1/4 cup here of wheat germ. You can also find that in the grocery store. A 1/4 cup of just regular plain oats, not the flavored oatmeal. Also, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Dump that right in there. And then in this bowl I have a teaspoon of the regular baking soda and then a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And again, we're just going to pour all of that in there. By the way, before I whisk this together, you need to preheat your oven to 425 degrees. And this is cooked in a buttered iron skillet. So if you have a cast iron skillet, you could use butter or butter flavored Crisco. I use butter flavored Crisco because I like the way it cooks. But you need to have this ready to dump the dough in and pop it in the oven. All right, so we've got our dry ingredients here, and we're going to whisk them together, and then you just got to get them mixed real well. And then we come back, we're going to add some wet ingredients, and I'll show you what we're doing there. Okay, we've got our dry ingredients kind of whisked together and mixed real well. Now what we're going to do, I've got 3 tablespoons of butter here kind of cut into pats. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop them in a couple of 3 at a time. And for those of you that don't bake, this is called cutting in the butter into the bread. You take a fork and I let this sit out a little bit to get a little softer. But what you're doing is you're actually cutting the butter into fine pieces and mixing it throughout the dough. So again, this is not real difficult. Just take your butter pats, dump them into our dry ingredients here, and just take the fork on top of them and smoosh them. You smoosh them, okay? And we're going to get all of this cut in, and when we come back, we'll add the final ingredients and turn this out into our cast iron skillet. Back in a sec. Okay, we've cut our butter into our dry ingredients, and what you want to see is just little small pebbles of it. You don't want to see any big hunks, but it just it distributes it out throughout your mixture here. We're going to go on now and add our wet ingredients. A variation on this, and it doesn't call for it in this recipe, but you can add a dried fruit to this if you don't want the plain bread, which is very yummy in and of itself. But you could take and put in raisins or dried cranberries. I'm going to add to this recipe what the Brits call Sultanas. And what they are here in America, and they're available in your local grocery store, are just what we call golden raisins. And I've got about a cup of golden raisins. It's got the brown sugar in it, but I like a little bit more sweetness. So before we add our buttermilk, I'm dropping in this 1 cup of Sultanas, or what we call dry raisins. I was able to find a pint bottle of our buttermilk at my grocery store that calls for 2 cups, which, is those of you know from primary school, 2 cups is exactly 16 ounces or a pint. So I'm going to pour about half of the buttermilk in. Again, it's 2 cups, which measures out, as we've discussed, to 1 pint. And then I'm going to pour in the rest here on the top of it. It's very thick, but it's going to be oh so yummy. And we're going to work our buttermilk into the dough. It's going to come out, it's going to make a real thick, kind of sticky dough, if you will. But make sure you get that all mixed in real well. Otherwise, it's going to be very dry. I'm going to get this mixed up. When we come back, we'll turn it out into our pan, finish it off, and pop it in the oven. We'll be right back. Okay, this is a little bit messy. You want to make it in kind of a round ball and a round loaf. You've seen them in your specialty grocery stores, but we've set it in our greased or buttered cast iron skillet. And what we're going to do before we pop it in the oven is we're going to cut across in it. It keeps it from cracking, but we'll cut across this way, and then we'll cut across this way, and you can see it in the picture, the finished product. But we're going to cut our cross in the top of it there. And then what we're going to do, about a tablespoon, it doesn't have to be exact, but a tablespoon of the dry oats, we're going to sprinkle it on the top here to give it a little bit of a crunch when it comes out. This bread will come out with a real crispy crust, but a very tender, soft inside that is just delicious as a snack with tea or coffee, or even with a meal. So in any event, there's the ingredients, there's the setup. All right, folks, we're going to pop this in the oven 40 minutes at 425, and we'll let that cook, unless you want to hang out for 40 minutes, but I don't think so. We'll let that cook, and when we come back, we'll cool it down, we'll cut it up, and we'll show you the finished product. Back in a bit. And we're back. 40 minutes in the oven at 425. And I let it cool for about 30 minutes, and I've already sliced into it, and it's still steaming. But here we go, folks. A big old loaf of authentic Irish brown soda bread. As I said, it's still a little hot. I've pulled a piece off here, and you can see the sultanas in here. I actually sneaked a little bite. I'm telling you, the sultanas add a lot to this, but as far as baking a bread and something tasty, slather a little bit of butter on there, or even some clotted cream, and boy oh boy, you'll be in heaven. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Again, I put a link to the exact recipe down in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up, and if you like what we're doing here on Americans Who Love Britain, please subscribe to the channel. It lets me know you appreciate the effort we're putting out. Also, real quickly, if you like listening to books instead of reading them, special deal for my viewers below from audible.com. You get 1 month free and your first book download free just for trying it with no further obligation. Hit the link below and we'll hook you up. Okay, folks, that's it for now. Stay tuned for more videos for all things Great Britain, UK, and that part of the world. We'll wrap it up for now. Until next time, cheers to you. Give the recipe a try. We'll talk to you next time.